Right, so Virginia Bell, who is she and what does she have to do with the right being upset about the scope of the Royal Commission?
She's an LGBTQIA activist who says free speech is not a personal right and may be limited by Parliament. That was from the Australian University Agenda. And that umpire is a massive lefty.
So firstly, I don't know what a sexuality has to do with anything in this Royal Commission. But let's look at that second claim which he quoted, which is what makes her a controversial form of justice. Miss Bell was criticised for the 2017 High Court decision which ruled that the Tasmanian government protest laws breached the implied freedoms of political communication. And that ruling was cited in, the ban for that pro-Palestinian march across Sydney Harbour Bridge having to go ahead. Also, I left this in here because I just love that Sky News has ads for dementia. Anyway, this is the ruling they're talking about, in which her and a couple of other High Court justices found that the implied freedom of political communication protects the free expression of political opinion, including peaceful protest, which is indispensable to the exercise of political sovereignty by the people of the Commonwealth. So in that case, she was arguing for the protection of freedom of speech, which I don't know why the right's against that. But there was another case that's laid out in this article from the ABC. The case was Modest versus the Queen, which was all about banning people from offensive and harassing speech that targets other people through the mail. And they decided to uphold that law despite the protections of implied freedom of political communication. And if you click on this link, you can find the information on it, including this short summary of the decision. And it was all about, the appellants had allegedly sent letters, a recorded message, to relatives of Australian soldiers killed in Afghanistan, which were essentially threatening and harassing. So she's both defending the right for freedom of speech and protest in Australia, whilst also being able to find limitations on that. In particular, a case about killed Australian soldiers' relatives being sent threatening letters. So how is that considered being a massive lefty? If anything, it would show that she isn't prejudiced to her biases. And in the case of this Royal Commission, she would be able to navigate that space between freedom of speech and outright hate speech. And we're getting people, which I believe this is from Frydenberg's ex-post here, saying it's unthinkable that the Prime Minister would choose a commissioner that did not have total confidence of the Jewish community. And I get that there has to be confidence in the commissioner, but if it was 100% confidence handpicked by just one segment of the community in any Royal Commission, in any judicial findings, wouldn't that show bias towards the group that handpicks them? I don't know. Let me know your thoughts.